right, we're live on YouTube too.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. And I'm calling this order of the calling to order the Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting of April 13th, 2020. Proof of publication is available. Before we go to prayer and pledge of allegiance this evening, I'm going to read a brief statement that'll cover a little bit of housekeeping for this meeting. And then that will be followed by a small moment of silence, followed by our prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. We welcome you here to Lower Allen Township's first virtual township meeting. The COVID-19 emergency has forced many of us, if not most segments of our society, to operate in new and different ways, including the business of Lower Allen Township. We're glad that you were able to attend tonight to this virtual meeting. I would like to explain the rules of conduct for this meeting. All participants, you will be muted upon entry and your video will be disabled. If you would like to comment on an agenda item or any issue pertinent to the township, or just ask a question, please notify the meeting host by sending a chat message or by clicking on the raise your hand button. Please note that the meeting host may remove any participant at any time for inappropriate comments. This meeting is also being recorded and is also available for viewing on the township's YouTube channel. Our host this evening is our assistant manager, Aaron Trone. And for all of the township participants that are here this evening, we do have our township commissioners, Commissioner Ed Black, myself, Commissioner Dean Vallone, Commissioner Rick Shin, Commissioner Thomas Kutz, and I believe Commissioner Holtzman is available and with us.
She is on, but her microphone is disabled.
Roger that.
Moment.
Welcome, Commissioner Holtzman. And also our solicitor, Stephen Miner, is with us this evening. Our recording secretary, Tina Thomas, is with us this evening. And we have various department heads who at some point during the meeting may be speaking on behalf of information that they'll be presenting. With the crisis that we're in now with the COVID-19, I just want to say my heart goes out to everybody in our country and the world right now, particularly in our county and Lower Allen Township. We are in truly a different time, and we will get through this. And I've seen neighborhoods and communities pulling together already, and we are committed to serve you. And I'm saying that, I'm sure, on behalf of every single one of us here tonight. So I would like to just take a moment of silence to acknowledge those who've already been lost in this crisis and those who are suffering. We pray this day to give thanks for all the many blessings bestowed upon our township. Watch over us who are entrusted with the administration of our township. Help us to use every willing service and every effort put forth for good government. Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance to help us as commissioners to make the right decisions, and we ask that you aid our staff as they perform the daily tasks of running our township, and we request that you be by our first responders as they protect our residents and see that they return home safe at the end of each day. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Now, if you're able and would like to stand with me, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Commissioners. The first item on our agenda tonight, as usual, is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting that we were together, our regular meeting of March 9th, 2020. Those minutes were sent to us in our packets, and I'm wondering if there's any questions or comments about the minutes. And at some point, I'd be looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
I move we accept the motion as the minutes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Shin, and I have a second by Commissioner Kutz. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Under your president, I'm looking at we have our check register of March 27th, 2020, and the amount of $111,534.44. I'm looking for a motion to approve that check register.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Shin and a second by Commissioner Kutz. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the check register of April 10th, 2020, in the amount of $478,421.48. I'm looking for a motion to approve that check register.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Kutz.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And I think I understand it, but the top of the report, it reads April 9, 2020. Is that just someone tell me, is that just the run date of this report? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay. Call for the question.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. President, may I interrupt for a second and ask?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Did you want to ask if there was anybody on who wished to speak on any item on the agenda?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I passed right by that. At this point, we will go back up to number 4 on our agenda, and I do apologize for that oversight. Is there anybody in our audience tonight or that's joining us online virtually that would like to participate in any item that's on the agenda? Now, there will be a time later in the agenda that you'll be able to bring up any information or anything you would like pertinent to the township. But right now, if there's anything on the agenda you would like to address, please notify the host at this time, and she will let us know when we come to that item. We'll give it about 30 seconds or so here to try to give it a little time for her to maybe register those folks who would like to speak. And then when the host is ready and feels she's gathered what she's needed to, she can just let us know.
At this time, I don't see anyone that has entered a question for comment or is raising their hand. So I don't believe we have any items for participation on the agenda.
Okay, so at this point, for those who've joined us, if there is something that comes up that's on the agenda, please notify the host and we'll do our best to get you your question answered or your comment on the air to us. Moving on then, 5C of our agenda this evening is to accept a motion to ratify the declaration of emergency signed by the President of the Board of Commissioners on March 17th, 2020. That action was taken on March 17th under the emergency, and we are, I'm looking for a motion to ratify that declaration.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, and I have a second from Commissioner Shin on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next is, I'd be looking for a motion to ratify the extension of the declaration of emergency to April 30th. And that was signed by me, your president, on March 30th, 2020.
Yeah, your microphone's on.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion and a second on the
All
floor.
right.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, I'd be looking to accept the motion to adopt Resolution 2020-R-14, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Lower Allen Township, Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, waiving refuse penalties for the second fiscal quarter of 2020.
So moved.
second,
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Motion is Commissioner Cook. Motion was by Commissioner Kutz. The second was by Commissioner Shin. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion,
Mr. President,
yes, sir.
I just want to make
Block.
sure that my audio is being heard.
We
Yes,
can hear you loud and clear. How about the rest of the board?
yes,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Moving on to F. And I'll say before we go through this, I may ask either the manager or the engineer to add some information on this next one, just ahead of time. But I'd be looking for a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-R-15 to submit proposals for the Pennsylvania Local Implementation Funding Opportunity for High Priority Nutrient and Sediment Load Reduction Practices that are consistent with the Pennsylvania Phase 3 Watershed Implementation Plan to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in partnership with the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second by Commissioner
Black.
Black. Thank you. Mr. Manager, I have a question. Was this something that we were aware of coming before tonight? I mean, obviously we knew it was coming in our packet, but I mean, is this just a standard procedure?
this is what they are requiring us to do now before submitting grant proposals.
Okay. So this would also apply to G as well?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. I'll call for the question if there's no other questions or comments.
Call for the question.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 5G, I'm looking to accept the motion to adopt Resolution 2020-R-16 to submit proposals for the small watershed grants, specifically implementation for water quality that will reduce nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment pollution to the Chesapeake Bay and its tributary rivers and streams to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in partnership with the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
So moved.
Second,
I have a
Second.
motion- I have a motion by Commissioner Kutz.
Shin.
and
Yes.
No,
Commissioner Shin, Mr.
I have a
President.
motion by Commissioner Shin and a second by Commissioner Black.
Correct.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I think we're gonna do it, but
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. At this point on our agenda, Again, to those who are participating tonight, or the viewers out that are with us tonight, if there's any business pertinent to the township at all, we would like to limit discussions to 15 minutes per person. I would like to offer that if it looks like we're going to get a lot of questions and comments here, I may limit that a little less and have a second round if that's okay. But we'll see how it goes. Is there any business pertinent to the township that anybody would like to speak of at this time? And we'll just give it a half a minute or so and allow Aaron Tron to collect.
And
Any
Mr.
of their-
President, if I can also add that the live stream on YouTube is about 15-second delay. So if anybody pops in with a chat on that, it's going to come a little bit after. So
Well, we'll exercise some patience here so that the public can weigh in if they choose.
I haven't received any comments on the group chat, nor do I see any hands waved. So I'm going to assume that there are not any, there's no new business.
Okay. We will also, if anyone had a problem submitting their request to talk or to speak, we'll also come back around to that. So just keep an eye on that, Aaron. And if you can just let us know if somebody would like to chime in.
I will do that.
Next, we'll move on to our township engineer. Dan, you have some stuff for us, I see.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. Item A is the street paving contract.
Dan is muted from me, at least, just FYI.
I heard him.
I heard it.
Never mind, I
heard
got it.
Okay, we did open bids publicly at your March 27th scheduled meeting time, even though the meeting was not physically held, it was advertised. We did receive sealed bids from 3 contractors. Low bid is from Quincy Supply at $425,300, which was very favorable compared to the budgeted amount of $600,000. Just as a reminder, these funds are in the Highway Aid Fund. So they're sort of offline from the general fund and anything that may happen with general fund, either revenue or expense. So that's the recommendation, is to award that contract.
Commissioners,
I make a
I
motion.
have one question for the engineer.
Commissioner Kutz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Engineer, I'm just curious, we had budgeted $600,000. Is it typical that these bids come in 175,000 or more under? And what kind of factors contribute to it being so much less than we budgeted?
Well, we always, I would say, budget a little bit high, certainly not that much. The time of year is good, particularly this year with everything that happened, that when business kind of ground to a halt, we were already in process. And knowing that other contracts may not come out for bid or may come out late, I think contractors were maybe more interested in getting the bid. It's also very much contingent on the oil prices. Currently are low. Now, there is a factor in the contract that protects both the owner and the contractor from differences in oil price. So the time, change in oil price between now and the time when they actually place the material can affect that price. So it's good to have some extra money available in case that is an increase, but it could also be a decrease.
Great. And one follow-up, if I may. And I'm curious, is we have the bid number at this point. I'm aware that PennDOT has imposed certain restrictions on contractors for social distancing guidelines, which may increase their costs. For example, they may not be able to have a trailer on site, or if people going to job sites have to take multiple cars. There's a number of precautions that PennDOT's requiring contractors to take. I'm wondering, Mr. Engineer, if it's your opinion that this will increase the cost at all, and if that would affect the cost we might have to output.
If that becomes necessary, then they may be entitled to some additional costs. The work is not even scheduled to begin until after the 1st of July. So what the requirements will be at that point is anybody's guess, right?
Thank you.
Dan, if they did come in with a higher price, would they need to have some type of justification, explanation for us?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And I would think if this is happening on PennDOT projects, PennDOT will probably have a prescribed procedure that we would have to follow for documentation because it is the liquid fuels account and they do audit those funds.
Yep. Mhm. Well, I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. President.
I have a motion on the floor to accept the awarding of this bid of $425,300 for the 2020 street paving pavement resurfacing project.
Second.
And you have a second, Mr. President.
I had the motion by Commissioner Shin and the second was
Commissioner Black.
Commissioner Black. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Dan, the next one's similar, right?
Item B is for a specialized project. This is microsurfacing pavement for a section on Hartsdale Drive, about 500 feet in length in the area of Utley Drive. We've had a situation there for a few years where we've had an unusual number of crashes with vehicles either sliding or leaving the road or both in wet conditions on the curve by the Progressive Insurance office there. This is the technique to, it's not a structural pavement, it's a surface treatment that increases the skid resistance, and we've used this before successfully. We received, or we saw price quotes on this. It was under the bid threshold, but we did receive 2 price quotes. We contacted 4 contractors. It actually came in a bit higher than we had budgeted, most likely because of the quantity involved. It's not a lot of, number of streets to do. But because of the savings on the previous bid, this also comes out of the Highway Aid Fund. There would be sufficient funds available in budgeted amount for this year to cover that project.
Do the Highway Aid Fund, that relates to what we get from the liquid fuels tax?
Correct.
Okay. And that comes in, the state collects that tax on their own and then distributes it to the townships?
Yes, we get the check from the state once a year in the spring.
Right.
And there's only certain things we can use that for.
And I'm sure that this question's been answered before, but these projects are funded out of those funds 100%, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion if anyone's interested in making a motion on this.
I'll make a motion that we award a unit price contract to Stewart and Tate Incorporated in the estimated total amount of $19,673.00 for the Hartsdale Drive micro surfacing project.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Black. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on, Dan.
Okay, item C is a similar situation as item B. This came to our attention just a few months ago after we were through the budget process for the year. Manager Verneau and I had met out at Bethany Village with their facilities director at his request after the second or third accident where a vehicle left the road and ended up on their property and actually struck vehicles in the parking lot at Bethany Village West. So on Wilson Lane, where there's a similar condition with a curve in the road, we had the police department. They pulled the crash records for the last 5 years. We found an unusual number of incidents for that short stretch of road, where almost every case there was wet pavement involved, where vehicles were spinning out, leaving the road or hitting the curb. So we're going to propose to do a similar treatment there. And we expect that the quantity is similar. The price would probably be similar to that item B that was just approved for Hartsdale Drive. Because it was not a budgeted item, the request tonight is just to authorize the staff to seek price quotes to do that work.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Black. Is there any discussion on this item? I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, Dan.
Okay, item D, this is a improvement security for SLD docket 2016-04, phase 1.3 of High Point Arcona. There was no information for you regarding decreasing the amount because it's actually an increase. The annual 10% increase for the amount already held in place. That has already been provided. So you can see the amount there to increase from the 80,000 to the 88,000. Extend that for an additional year.
Mhm. So moved.
second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. Is there any discussion? All those in favor,
What, until they do something with the roadways up there, I'm leery of doing anything in Arconia. The roadways up there are horrible. You can't turn around. You can't do anything up there. The roads aren't wide enough. Everything is dead end. It's horrible up there. It is absolutely horrible up there.
I don't know. I'm not sure what Commissioner Holtzman is specifically referring to, but Dan, I guess my first question would be, has everything been built out according to the plans as they've been approved by the township going, thus far?
The parts that have been completed, yes. And this improvement security is for the remaining work in that phase, primarily the wearing course on the street.
Okay.
The
Commissioner
streets up
Holtzman.
there are not near wide enough. When you go in, you have to back out. I mean, there are no streets that go straight through. Everything you have to turn around, and it's literally impossible. To go in there with an ambulance and get a patient and have to back out, that's ludicrous. If we would ever have a major fire up there, what would we do? Has anybody even looked at that?
Mr. Manager, it sounds like you were going to respond.
Two things. Number one, all of the plans have come before the planning commission and the board, and they're building it as designed, as submitted, and as approved. So an opinion on width, length, dead ends is what it is. But this action that's on the agenda tonight does not approve anything up there. It simply extends their security for another year.
We're just holding more money.
You're not approving anything up there right now. You're just extending their security for another year and an additional 10%.
Commissioner Holtzman, do you understand that?
Okay, so we're not approving anything up there.
Well, we're approving an increase in the security, the financial security for that docket for that next phase.
Yes, but this doesn't approve any buildings, roads, improvements of any kind. This is just the security extension.
All right.
So
So
moved.
I do have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the question
Didn't realize we'd done it.
on the increase. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I could,
Yes, sir.
Dan, if there are dead end streets there, are they streets that will be extended with further construction?
No, I don't believe so. Not in that area. These are the private streets. Serve some of the residential units.
Do they have cul-de-sacs? They have cul-de-sacs at the end of them?
No.
Okay.
Dan, do you want to move on to E then?
Okay, item E is request for payment number 8, which will be the final payment to Penn State Construction for general construction work on the Public Works Building addition. Their work has been completed. A couple of the other contractors are still finishing up.
So we're looking for action to approve this payment, right? Of
Right.
$57,127.30. The general construction.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, and looks like Commissioner Kutz got the second on that one. If there's no further questions on this, I will call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Dan, are they using the building now?
Yes.
Good. Okay. That's a pretty good sign that it's done.
All right, at this point, we'll move on to the manager.
Mr. President, first item I have on the agenda there is just disclosure, public disclosure of several electronic and telephonic executive sessions that we've had. First one was on March the 20th. This was a telephone conference. And it had to do with the closure of the township building and the reduction of in-office staffing. The board did approve at that time to have people stay stay at home and not come into the building. The second meeting, which was also a telephone conference, was on March 27th, and it had to do with the stay-at-home order and all non-essential employees staying at home. That also was approved by the board. There was a Zoom meeting on April the 3rd. It was our first test meeting, but while we were on the meeting, we discussed the local government exemption from the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act, which affects sick leave and family medical leave for employees. Also discussed the continuation of pay for employees during the stay-at-home order and also the reopening of the yard waste facility. April 9th was not really an executive session. It was our second practice meeting for tonight's public meeting. There were no it was also a Zoom meeting. There were no deliberations or decisions made during the meeting.
The April 9th was our last week, right?
It was Thursday. It was our
Right,
second
yeah.
practice,
We practiced for this, got it. I remember. Mhm.
Mr. President, would you like action to confirm these meetings?
I mean, it couldn't hurt to confirm what the manager just disclosed. And
You can ask the solicitor on.
Yeah, and just if I may, Tom has done what he needs to, is just to disclose that they occurred. No action was taken. You don't need to ratify this action.
This is
Okay.
not unique. It's been done before.
Okay,
Correct.
well, that answers my question. You good, Commissioner Black, with that?
That's fine.
Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion on that, then we'll move on to under the manager B.
Second, in reference to the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act, which I'll refer to as the act from here on in, because that's a mouthful. The staff developed a couple of policies. The first policy specifically addressing the expansion of Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, under the act, and also the second policy addressing the federally guaranteed sick leave, the emergency sick leave for employees. Those policies were sent out in your packets, and we'll ask the board for possible for action tonight to approve those as official personnel policies of the township. I will point out, under the Family First Coronavirus Recovery Act, municipal employees we are required to offer the federally guaranteed sick leave to our employees. However, we are not eligible for the tax credit, which the federal government is offering to private business. The way it works is whatever amount of money they pay their employees under the act, they get to deduct that amount from their withholding submittal, their 941 deposit. We don't have that luxury. We haven't paid much out on that yet, but that will be part of some relief package, if there is one in the future from FEMA for our costs. But again, we are required to offer this leave to our employees. We are trying to not use it by having as many people work from home as possible, and also using accrued leave. But they'll reach a point. In fact, I believe today was payday. I think there were a number of timesheets submitted with emergency sick leave on them. So,
Mr. President, I have a question for the manager.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Shan.
Thank you. Is this unique to each employer, Tom? For instance, the amount of pay, there are numbers in there. That's not universal. There's no federal regulations based on any dollar amounts, right?
those numbers that were in the policy are directly out of the act. So
Oh, the $511 that per day, that's,
But they're maximums.
that's a maximum.
That's a
okay.
maximum.
That's not
All
the
right.
guaranteed amount. They're actually what it really gets into the difference between whether they themselves are affected or under a quarantine, or whether they are taking time off to assist a family member. Originally, the way it worked out was if you were simply assisting a family member, you were eligible for 2/3 of your pay. If you were quarantined or infected yourself, you got full pay. But the governor's statewide stay-at-home order effectively just made everybody eligible for full pay by, isolating everybody in the state.
I just wondered where the numbers came from, and now that answers my question. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, if this is essentially, or even the solicitor, if this is essentially a type of mandate, why is it that we have to take action on it?
Well, we crafted our own policy. The main reason was, even though these policies are specifically right now for the coronavirus, we can amend these down the road. When we put them into the personnel manual, they can be amended to address any similar situation
I got it. So it's going to stay permanent in our policy until we rescind it.
in some form.
Got it. Any other discussion on this, folks?
So, Mr. President, you're looking for a motion to approve the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, sick leave and family and medical leave policies?
Yeah, as it relates to Lower Allen.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Black. Is there any further discussion on this? I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then, Mr. Manager, under C.
Yeah, item C there, we received a copy of a memo from our fleet manager, Charlie Reynolds, regarding replacement of the skid steer loader. This item was planned for in the regular replacement schedule. It is in the budget. There's a situation right now where the plant is closing down. Their plant is closed down. And in order for us to get exactly what we want, we would need to order it now. I did talk to the fleet manager today, and our current skid steer loader is working just fine. Well, it's getting old. It's got its problems, but it's working. So by not purchasing the new one right now, all we really face is the possible delay of getting a new one by waiting until the plant reopens up and re-gears up, and they start fulfilling orders and things like that. So we may be looking at a several month delay. It could be the end of the year before we get the new one, if we even decide to buy it this year. Otherwise, it would be into next year.
We had 52,000 budgeted and it comes in at 30, just under 40,000.
That's correct.
What's the prediction on whether we'd get a price like that if we don't buy it now?
I would hate to venture a guess. I'm sure it's going to go up. Prices never go down, but there may be costs involved in re-gearing up plants. So I don't know that I would want to take a gamble, but
Well, Mr. President, you want a motion on the floor before we ask any questions about the memo that we got?
I mean, if that's appropriate, I believe we should probably get the motion and a possible second.
I would be interested then in purchasing the skid loader as described in the memo from Fleet Manager Reynolds for a price of $39,536.48.
Second,
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Black. And can I assume, Commissioner Shin, you want to ask a question?
Yes, I'd just like to something cleared up for me. I'm looking at the first paragraph of the memorandum where it talks about the current skid loader as part of the replacement cycle. But then it reads, the new skid loader will also allow us to use all the attachments that we currently have for the old one, thus eliminating the need to purchase new attachments. Does this mean there's some type of, it's like buying an updated Ford and some of the things that worked on the previous one are going to fit just because it's the same make?
yes, I mean, they're sometimes, depending on which models you buy, the previous attachments won't fit.
Yeah.
In this case, they will. So we have to buy separate.
Was that by design, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's it. That's what I had, what I needed.
So I have a question. So I heard you say, Tom, that Charlie said, the fleet manager said that he could get by with the current one that we have. Is there a time frame in which he feels he can nurse that one along where it would be doing the job, so to speak, at the very minimum, or even doing an adequate job?
Well, we didn't go into what its estimated useful life will be at this point. What I did get was we're good for another year.
Oh,
And so then I guess the follow-up to that question I have is, I guess it's the risk is that if we don't order it, we don't get into the queue to get it, it could potentially be farther down the road at a higher cost. Yet my frugal hat is saying we don't know what to expect, in this crisis and that. So I have to be honest with the board. I'm a little torn taking action on this tonight, but I'm not saying I'm opposed to it because I'm sure this wouldn't be presented to us without some legitimacy to it. So, I mean, perhaps maybe is there any harm in getting more information on the situation, particularly this unit and what we could be potentially looking at with costs increasing on it when we do need it? If we, let's just say hypothetically, waited till the next meeting to take action on this.
Yeah, about $20,000.
You're looking at what the problem is a little bit of a time crunch because the available stock right now is as it dwindles, we'll have whatever's left because the plant's already shut down. So We have, and we've identified the piece that we want with the features that we want. It is available. I don't know that it would be available in 2 weeks. I don't know that it won't be available. This
What does the capital fund look like? Are we okay there as far as money in the, used to be a capital purchase account years ago. I don't know if it's still that way, accounting is still that way or not. We have the money there?
Well, yes, but I should bring the finance director on to answer that question.
I'll pose.
General fund. Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. I can't see you, but
This comes out of the general fund and was planned for this outlay. So we will have the money available to take care of it if you so choose.
But if push came to shove, we might need that money for operating purposes. Is that what you're saying, Rick?
We are we have worked over the years to put ourselves in a very strong financial position, anticipating not necessarily a virus, but a recession. So we are not really in financial straits at the moment and don't plan to be unless this extends for a very long time.
to answer your question, Commissioner, that money is reserved in, as you called it, some part of it's in the, I don't know if we're bringing any over from the capital fund this year. Is that correct, Rick? Can't hear you.
No, I think you said it would be coming out of the general fund, Tom.
We do have a capital fund that we borrow from because we started doing this several years ago. We kind of borrow from ourselves to pay the interest, but I'm not sure that this particular item is coming from that fund or if it's just coming from the general fund.
Well, that's why I asked that question, Tom, because I was on the board that set up that capital reserve fund many, many years ago, and I didn't know if we were still going that way or not.
We don't use that particular one, but we have developed a different one.
Okay.
Basically does the same thing, only it's more general. We can use it for pretty much any equipment we need to replace.
Well, it was a big deal, Tom, because many weren't being made at all at that time. And so the board decided, let's start putting some money away so we can actually buy something.
That fund existed when I started here. So
Okay.
I think what Rick was saying was that the fund balance that we have right now is very healthy. This $39,000 you're not going to need for operating funds. There's plenty of money in the reserve to continue operations as we go forward.
Okay.
The 12,000 plus savings on this is what's really attractive. I mean, seeing that price coming in as low as it did right now is a free and clear savings. That difference, like there's no additions, and sometimes when we buy apparatus, there's add-ons, or that savings could be accounted for someplace else. That's not already accounted for, right? So that's free and clear out of our budget. Is that correct in assuming?
That's correct.
Okay. So that's a 12,000 plus savings immediately.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if it wasn't for the $12,000 savings, I'm not sure I would have brought this to you tonight, especially with the current ones still in operating order.
Well, two observations I would make. Since the accessories from the existing machine will fit the new machine, that's another savings. And we don't know if that will be the case when they come back on production. The second observation is this is a very versatile machine. And if we have any kind of a catastrophe, any kind of a situation, this would probably go to that site.
Correct. It can be used for moving debris, fallen trees. Currently, I mean, it's used for a lot of things, primarily with the yard waste program right now, moving material around.
Well, Mr. President, can we take a chance on this and maybe I could call for the question?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. And if there's no further discussion, or other action to withdraw the motion, I will call for the question. So therefore, all those in favor of approving this capital purchase, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And I have
Healthy
nothing
discussion.
further.
Good discussion.
Yes.
Can I just comment? I would think that we're probably gonna, all of us are real sensitive, and I know based on conversations that we've had with each other, and I would say moving forward, I would appreciate it if we can be as cautious as we are with this one, as we know you are, Tom. I mean, there's no doubt you try hard to get presented to us only those things that we're gonna need. So I would say moving forward, if we're going to be doing these meetings like this, as much information as possible that we can get ahead of time would be terrific. Thank you.
I appreciated the fleet manager's memo. It was very informative and gave us a good ammunition, much of which was reiterated by Vice President Black. And I just think that whole discussion went well, and it was worthwhile. I think we made a good decision.
All right, we're going to move on to commissioner reports. And is everybody that, Aaron Trone, everybody that's with us on the screen right now except for yourself?
I can bring them back on. There.
Oh, I just wanted to know if there weren't some people so I don't miss them. But anyway, I'll start with Tina Thomas, the recording secretary this evening.
No, thank you.
Nothing. I'll just I'll move along here to Solicitor Minor.
No, thank you, Mr. President, but good meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Flint.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Nothing. Mr. Grove.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Miss Davis.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Trone.
I would just say that Community and Economic Development has been working from home for the past 3 weeks, and I think they've done a really good job processing permits and applications. We've had some struggle. We have a lot of people who come in and request to do work, and of course, with the governor's order, we can't issue permits for that, but we have been getting back to the public, and I just wanted to let you know that I think they're doing a really good job.
Thank you. No offense, Dave, I'm going to skip over you to our police captain. We haven't seen him in quite a while. You have anything to say, Captain?
I do not. No.
Okay.
We'll pass.
Well, thanks for being
Like
there.
he's on a plane.
Thanks for showing up in your Death Star.
I think they look like a little motorhead there.
Wow.
Director Hall.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been an interesting month plus on the public safety side. As everybody knows, we don't have the benefit of working from home. So we work in everybody else's home. So we've done some things to basically help for the safety of the employees. We've issued N95 masks that took a little while to get because they were tough to get. We basically tested those, what's called fit testing with everybody over the past week. So there's a lot of precautions that EMS particularly, and also the police department is taking when they respond to your complaints. We've also tried the distancing piece. We started through our Crime Watch program and online reporting. There's several things that have to happen, though. It cannot be an emergency. The incident has to have occurred in Lower Allen. It cannot be a crime in progress. it cannot already have been reported by phone or in person to the police. The incident occurred, it has to have occurred more than 30 minutes ago, and no evidence needs to be collected in terms of fingerprints, things like that. And it's not related to a vehicle crash. So those things, a citizen can go online and actually do the report. It comes in, and then an officer is detailed when we receive that in order to call that individual who's reported that and actually follow up on it via phone. So we think that's a safety factor for the community and for the public, as well as for our officers. So things have been progressing reasonably well. We're like everybody else, waiting for the time to toll and for this to pass, and trying to do it as safely as possible for everybody. So that would be it. We also put a thing out for Crime Watch, report hoarding and price gouging. So anybody that sees any of those things happening is encouraged to call in and make a report. And we'll give that to whoever we need to, whether it's ourselves investigating it or whether it's the Attorney General's office or whatever other law enforcement entity who could follow up on those reports. And that's it for me.
Thanks for sharing, Dave. Mr. Eby?
Hello, I just wanted to say that as a longtime resident and longtime employee, I'm really proud of the staff as far as getting this meeting together, and Aaron's doing a great job as our host. Also wanted to thank the Emergency Management Coordinator, Dave Hall, and his folks for helping our department safely navigate how we can our customers and stay active.
Thank you. Commissioner Holtzman?
Nothing. Everybody just stay safe.
Thank you. Commissioner Black?
Just a couple of things. Dave Hall and Leon, please tell our first responders how appreciative we are for what they're doing, and including the fact that they worked through the holiday. Maybe some of the commissioners don't realize, but we have been the possible location, and one has located in our township for resources as relates to COVID-19 and restocking shelves of critical moving items. The second one was we almost had a COVID treatment facility in our township, but I think that has gone by the boards. And I just want to say, and we got to thank the residents too, because Dave, I understand that a lot of them have been sending money in for food for our responders, and everybody truly is in this together. And I just want to say I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Shin?
I would echo what Vice President Black had to say. I would just like to say that my wife has been very, very busy making masks. And there are a few in case somebody's really, really up against it, needs a safety mask. I'm sure we can scrounge up a couple anyway. But she was making them and ran out of elastic. So that's what stopped the operation. So I am so proud of what everybody's done. I echo John Eby's comments. This is something no one ever expected to ever have to be a part of. But it's great to be a part of a team like ours. So my congratulations to all the employees and the administration. So thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kutz?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, I just want to thank our staff. We've had tremendous conversations with our staff these last couple of weeks, and I want to thank you guys for being on top of your game, being flexible. We know it's tough on you guys, and you guys have made the adjustment well working from home. Mr. President, I would like to thank our first responders who are out there on the front lines every day, truck drivers, grocery workers, healthcare workers, nurses and doctors, everyone who is doing their part to combat this virus. I'm proud of the public safety department we have. Our EMS team and our fire and police who go out there every day, knowing the dangers they face, and they do it willingly. And for that, we are all truly grateful. So thank you, and hope to thank you all in person one day soon. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Trone has a comment from a viewer or two.
Yeah, this is from Julie Etcherling, which she's a staff member and also a resident. And she just wanted to send in her thanks. She wants to say thank you to everyone for working together for the best for our community. And she wants to thank our first responders out there. She said this was a good meeting and thanks everyone for all of their work.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie,
Anybody else out there, Aaron?
I haven't seen any takers.
Okay, well,
No
if
shot.
there is anybody, we'll let them wrap things up for us. I would just like to say thank you to everybody in the township, our staff, my fellow commissioners. I mean, we've had some great discussions. Some have been tough. I think we're working well together under these circumstances, and each and every one of you, I mean, we've been able to get some stuff done, help mitigate the problems from this crisis. Our ditto, the first responders, police, fire, EMS, you're doing a great job, and under the direction of captain, the director, and the other captains, and on behalf of Vicki and I, my wife, and I'm sure others in the township, we really appreciate your services. I've witnessed our residents. Vicki and I have taken walks and bike rides throughout different areas of the township, and I've witnessed our residents getting out and exercising, but people have been pleasant in Lower Allen Township for the most part regarding under these circumstances. And I know neighbors have been appreciative that they make a phone call or they leave a message to somebody in our staff or in our organization that they get a pretty prompt response. There has been a lot of issues, you know, regarding trash pickup and some other things that have happened secondary with this crisis. And those issues have been resolved pretty quickly. And I know that for those folks that are listening tonight or watching this, just know that we're working, we're trying to work tirelessly for you, I should say, so that this transition is as easy as possible for you. And just know that if you have questions, you can contact us anytime and we'll do our best to solve your problems for you. So having said that, if there are no other chats, I see the chat blinking. Is there anything, Aaron? Is that it? Okay. Well, if there's no other comments tonight, I would just like to tell everybody, I thought for the first time, this is a pretty good meeting. And I would think that, Mr. Manager, if we have to do this again, which I'm assuming we probably will in 2 weeks, I would feel comfortable, of course, with the blessing of the other commissioners, maybe adding some other items onto our agenda so we can clean some backlog up as well. I think we did pretty good getting through this information, and I don't want to let too many things that have been on the go too far in the rears. So I think that we're pretty comfortable with getting the job done. What do y'all think?
Yes.
All right. Super. Well, having said that, I call this a meeting adjourned.
Good meeting, Mr. President.
Nice. Thanks, Aaron. Nice job.
Thank you.
Good job, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.